My guest today is actress Ashton Solecki, who is a rising force in film and television, known for her grounded intensity and magnetic screen presence. Originally from Montana, Ashton took an unconventional path to the screen, trading a background in neuroscience and product management to pursue a creative life both in front of and behind the camera. Now, her roles showcase both emotional depth and fearless range and is quickly emerging as a talent to watch. Now, her breakout performance in the feature film Roswell Delirium, now streaming on Apple TV, earned her multiple acting awards and contributed to the film's sweeping success with over 100 awards at festivals worldwide. Now, Ashton currently stars as the mysterious villainess and a series regular at the heart of ELKHORN, a cable western drama now renewed for its second season on the Inspirational Channel, premiering in October 2025. And her recent film, The Darkness Returns, created a buzz at Cannes Film Festival this year and is set for the film festival circuit this fall. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome actress Ashton Solecki to the show.
Hey,
Welcome.
thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited for you to be here as well, and I have interviewed quite a few of your co-stars on Roswell Delirium. But I love it when I find out that my guests start off in one genre and then end up in acting. But you pursued a background in neuroscience and you traded it for acting. Why?
I did. Well, I think most actors can attest to this, but when you get the acting bug, it's usually something I think that you're born with or happens in the first like 5, 6 years of life. So that was me. I got bit by the acting bug. I went to the movies. I saw The Mummy Returns, okay, with Brandon Fraser and everyone in that cast, Chef's Kiss. And I remember being a kid and I was like, I want to do that. However, I grew up in a tiny town in Montana. And at least for me and how I grew up, that becoming an actor, like that was not possible. That was not in the cards. No. But you keep it on the back burner and you think, okay, let's start down this path and see what happens. So I went to college. I studied neuroscience. I worked as a product manager and innovation manager at this like Fortune 500 company. I made medical devices and things like that. And I did like it and I was good at it. And I was very thankful for the opportunity. But then as time went on and the career started to really expand and expand and expand, I realized that I reached this branch, this Y in the road where I could carry on this way and, it'd be a great life. Or I could take a chance and do what I've always wanted to do. And I knew that if I didn't decide then and I kept down the path, that choice would be harder and harder and harder to make. So I pressed the eject button and I quit my job and I moved to Los Angeles to become an actor. And it was the best thing that I ever did, for sure.
Well, how long did it take you to get your first role?
So, okay, I was a little scrappy, okay? Because when I came to LA, I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know how to audition. I didn't know how to act. I mean, I was in a play when I was a kid and I had no experience whatsoever. So this was like a huge risk. It was a shiny thing, but it was just, I can't even tell you, I needed it as badly as the air I breathe. And so my goal was, especially with something like acting, you really cannot tell the future at all. They always say that if you want to make money, don't become an actor because it's that difficult. Anyone can attest to that. But my goal was, okay, I can't control anything that may or may not happen. All I want is really good training. I want to become the best that I can be. And then we'll see where it goes from there. And so within a week, I enrolled in the Sanford Meisner Center in Burbank, changed my life. We'll get there. But then while I was studying, I was just restless, right? Because I had quit this career to come, to LA to do this thing. And the training was amazing. And it was a full-time conservatory. So I was busy all the time. But I was like, well, I need some hands-on applications. And I didn't know how to get an audition. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have any of that. But I thought, well, I got to start somewhere. And so at the time, they still had a lot of those casting spaces. This was like before pandemic. Now most things are self tapes,
Yeah.
um, but they had those casting spaces, right? Where they'd be casting multiple projects at the same time. And you walk in, and there's all these, rooms, and outside the room on a screen or a piece of paper, it'll have the title of the project and the roles they're casting for and the description. And then they had the sides outside the room. So I just looked around. I found, some roles that I could fit. I secretly grabbed the scripts, sat down in the waiting room, read, memorize, signed in on the sheet when I was ready. And they'd call my name and they were very confused. They're like, Ashton? And I'm like, yep, that's me. And I'd walk in and they're looking at their papers and they're like, oh, we don't see you on our list. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Here now. And that's how I got my first roles. And it was like, they were like, we don't know where you came from and you're a wild card, but they offered me the role. That's how I got my first jobs, was by being scrappy.
So your first auditions were in-person audition.
They were, yeah. I had no idea what I was doing, but well, it's not rocket science in a
So
way.
when did for self-tapes,
Yeah.
was that forced upon everybody due to the pandemic, or were self-tapes still kind of coming into its own be right before the pandemic?
Yeah, self-tapes were coming into their own. I remember doing a lot of those. I hope they never see the light of day. I really didn't know what I was doing then. But no, they were coming into play there, but I definitely preferred and still do prefer an in-person audition because, and I know a lot of people don't, but I love working in the room, working off of a reader in person, because that's where my work as an actor is off the person in front of me, moment to moment to moment to moment. So I love the in-person energy, but self-tapes were coming into play then and are the big thing now.
Yeah. Now, do you have like a friend that comes over to be the other person if you're doing a self-tape?
I don't. I Zoom call them in. It's a lot, because a self tape can take anywhere from, like, I don't know, 10 minutes to an hour. And I just like to, do all the work is in the preparation for me. You know what I mean? And so then I call them in and then we do the self tape and we're done. But the, you have your readers that you like cycle through. You have your go-to, who's my best friend in the whole world, and she's amazing. She's also an incredible actress. She's my go-to, but sometimes, like, if you're working really romantically, I can't work off of her. I love her, but it doesn't work. I need a different reader then.
I get it. I get it. I mean, it's just it's crazy because just in the last, was it 5 or 6 years, the
Yeah.
industry has changed, hasn't it?
Oh, massively, yeah, massively.
Is it harder?
Um, I it was during the pandemic and after, and of course there's all the strikes on top of that that did make things difficult. There was a period of time where, with the writers strike, there was a great decrease in the amount of projects that were able to be cast and therefore auditions, and it was this trickle down effect of all of that. But also the industry continues to warp and change as it ever will, especially with things like AI and things like digital filmmaking, and it's really expanding the possibilities of how things are filmed. And it's an interesting time for actors and a really important time to grab the reins as an actor and not be driven by fear or not be driven by those types of things, but rather understand that technology is coming, and to make it your friend and make it your tool, basically. Yeah, the industry is, not just because of pandemic, not just because of technology, not just because of the all of the strikes and layoffs that have happened over the last 5 6 years, but it's a really interesting time in Hollywood
It's
for sure.
more, it's film is far more global today than it's
Yeah.
ever been. When back in the day you would watch the Oscars and all
Hmm.
the films, for the most part, most of the audience just thought they were all American made.
Hmm.
but they weren't. And then
Hmm.
as time went by, we started seeing more films. And I think if you really broke down the best picture category, I would bet that the majority of them were never filmed here.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting too because we see that trend increasing more and more. A lot of things being filmed in like the UK and Ireland and all over. A lot of things moving out of LA even to other parts of the country. And there was a recent bill passed to bring productions back here and things like that. And so we'll see. But it's something that is ever flexing. Personally, would I love to film in like Ireland? Absolutely, yes. And I understand also the financial incentive for it too. I think the diversification of film, though, and where we're filming is a really good, interesting thing. Because there are stories all over the world from all walks of life that need to be told. But I would also love if we can pick up production back in LA, truthfully.
Yeah, yeah, because I know that there were thousands upon thousands of people in the film industry, and a lot
Yeah.
of them left,
Oh,
because there
yeah.
was
I mean, especially.
nothing to do. But on a happier note,
Yes.
do you remember being on a film set for for the very first time?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I remember that. And again, I had no training. And I remember everyone around me knew what they were doing. And there's me just like watching, observing, right? And at that point in my life, I was afraid to ask questions. Now, that's not the case. If I don't know, I will tell you I don't know and I will find out. But at the time, I was like, oh, I must pretend like I know what I'm doing. And I am so thankful because they were going to shoot my coverage of the scene first. I was ready to go, or so I thought. And then last minute, they're like, oh no, let's shoot her coverage, the other person's coverage first, yada, yada. So I'm watching, and I didn't know that, they say, rolling, the camera roll, da 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 da, and then action. I would have gone when they asked for rolling, like is the camera rolling, is sound rolling, and I was like, why isn't she going? And then they went and action, and then she started, and I was like, oh my gosh, thank God that I didn't go first. It was I just remember it's yeah. Yeah, I remember. And I remember how excited I was and how grateful I was. And that feeling remains true now every time I'm on a project, even if I have to wake up at 5 in the morning, even though I know that I'll have, really long film days, sometimes for months in a row, every single day, I'm very grateful to be there.
Oh, you have to be.
Yeah.
I mean, when you hear that SAG alone has over 160,000 members
Yeah.
and only 1, maybe 2% are considered full-time actors,
Yeah. It's
I mean,
crazy.
it's tough. I mean, and you took a huge gamble,
Yeah.
and you are one of the lead actors in Richard Bakewell's sci-fi thriller Roswell Delirium. How did you get the
Yeah.
part?
Oh, there's a lot of serendipity involved with this. Back on self tapes, actually, I work with my manager Rob Sertix of Madhouse Talent. He's incredible, and he received an audition notice from Richard for this role, which is standard procedure. And it was a self tape. And I remember when I read the description of the project, the role, and then read the sides, and I was burning. I was like, I need this. I want this so bad. And normally it's dangerous to feel like that so much as an actor, but I was like, oh. And so anyway, so then I had like 2 days to film it or something. Memorized, it was like 10 pages, whatever. Memorized lots of heavy dialogue, whatever. Great. I I go to film it in my, place in my I'm pointing at it back there behind camera, my audition space. and, and I literally press record, and then at the same time there's construction that starts. Literally the moment I press record, it's like jackhammers like and I was like, well, this isn't going to work. So I waited. I was like, okay, I'll just wait till tomorrow, right? Because I have 48 hours. I'll just film it tomorrow. So tomorrow I wake up, same thing, press record. And it's like, oh no, okay, I can't film it here. And now we're crunched for time. So then I was like, okay, I'll just rent out my acting studio where I was training at the time, the Sanford Meisner Center. And I get there, and I'm not joking you, construction. And at this point, I have hours left, and I'm scrambling and I'm sweating. Oh, God. So I call a friend. Hey, you live closest to you? Da, 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 da. I go over there. Construction. It was like the universe was against me. The world was against me. And I was so disheartened and so frustrated that I was like, okay, I guess I'm not meant to have it. And I didn't submit. I did not submit for the role. And let's see, 3 months later, yeah, I know. 3 months later, I was still studying in school. Um, I got another email from my manager and said, "Hey, Ashton, this project is interested in seeing a tape from you, or interested in having you come in during their callbacks if you're interested." And I was like, "Let me see the project. Oh my God, it's the one! It's the one!" And I was like, "Absolutely, I will be there, 100%." And it's so because Rick had this like feeling. He said, I thought you were going to be our wild card. And he said that the casting director was like, what are you doing? They've already like narrowed down to their top three actors, one of which was like a celebrity that we all know and recognize. And anyway, I was like, ready. I walked in. I was like, give me 10 seconds, turn around. I get emotionally full. I turn back. We do the scenes. Everyone in the room starts crying. He goes, do you have any questions? I went, nope, thank you. I stood up and I left. And that was it. And then I booked the role.
You got a
Yep.
call back without ever submitting an audition tape.
I know. After I missed the submission deadline in the first place, months later, I'm telling you, there's a lot of serendipity in this. But it
So,
also shows you that what is for you won't pass you. It doesn't eliminate your agency required and the action that's required. But truly, if you are working as hard as you can, what is for you won't pass you. I truly believe that,
so
especially
did
as an
so did Rick have so did Rick see you in other work
yeah,
prior to that?
yeah. Yeah, he had seen because my manager had submitted to his project. That this is a standard procedure. There's, projects that are casting for something. They have various casting sites. Agents, managers, yourself will see them, and you'll submit your materials to the project to be considered to be asked for an audition. And so he had submitted my headshot, submitted my reel, and things like that, and they had seen my work and wanted me to audition, but of course I did not get that audition in. And there was something weighing on Rick, I suppose, when they were narrowing through and they were about to hire out the role. And he was like, yeah, just bring her in as a wild card. If she sucks, she sucks, basically, and whatever. And yeah. And then I actually had one callback after that, one more. Uh, and apparently, right when I left the room, Richard and all the producers inside were like, "She's it, right?" I had no idea. I expected that I would never hear back from them again, but I just wanted to audition so badly. I just wanted. It's like I needed to express what was being said in the scene itself. It wasn't about booking the project. Would that have been great? Obviously amazing, and I'm so glad I did. But it was truly all about the craft in that moment, all about what needed to be said. And it worked. It worked.
Wow, I absolutely love stories like that. And you play Firefly, which
Yeah.
is the older version of Mayday, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Most of your scenes are with Anthony Michael Hall. What was that
Yes.
like?
Um, Great. First off, I remember he's so professional and he knows what he's doing. And I remember sitting across from him and just soaking it all up, like watching, making notes. And it was a challenge for me because my scenes are very heavy. I don't know if you've seen the film.
Oh,
Yeah,
I've seen it more than once.
yes, it requires at least a one-time viewing. I think it's a tour. Anyway, and I remember I was like, Ashton, just trust that you're in this room because you were hired to do a job and they trust you with this job. So don't doubt yourself now. Don't be nervous. Don't get in your head. Yes, you're sitting across from Anthony Michael Hall. Learn from him, be appreciative, and stay in the moment. And he was so great. He was so supportive. He actually, for something like the role of Firefly, where it's really emotional and heavy, so heavy, I need to stay in character between takes. Uh, and he quickly picked that up and he would help me stay in character, which I'd never had another actor do with me between scenes. So, like, there's times he would be watching me, like, prepare before a scene or in between, and he would keep talking to me as the role he was playing to me as Firefly. And that was pretty incredible. I'd never had that happen before, and it was really helpful, actually.
Now, and was he the only one? Well, no, because you had you had scenes with Ariel and Kylie,
Yeah.
and but did were you able to meet any of the other 80s icons in the film?
No, I could have, but I was visiting my family in Montana when they filmed that block. Oh, I was green with envy. They looked like they had such a great time. And Dee Wallace's performance, by the way, in that film is just like next level. She's incredible. She's incredible. I really hope not just to work with her on a project, but like literally to work with her one day. She's so incredible.
Yeah, because you think of the seasoned actors that were just in that film alone. Of course, Anthony Michael Hall,
Yeah.
Reginald Vell Johnson, Dee Wallace, Sam Jones,
Lisa Welch.
Lisa Welchel. I
I
mean
know.
that. Of course, Rick created the film with an '80s vibe, and
He
he
did.
brought those actors in, which I thought was incredible.
Yeah, I remember asking him about that. And he was like, well, obviously, I wanted to write a movie where I could cast my favorite stars as a kid. Why wouldn't I do that? I was like, that's such a good idea. If and when I ever make a film of my own, I will do the same thing.
Yeah, and it absolutely worked here. Now, there's the scene with you and Ariel Bodenhausen when you
Yeah.
meet in the prison.
Yes.
That was very emotional and a very powerful scene. How did you
Yes.
prepare mentally for that particular scene? Because both of you and Kylie had to go deep emotionally.
Yes, yeah. That's a complicated answer actually, because I did all my preparation work as an actor, but then I also had these extenuating personal circumstances that made everything that I prepared for last minute, I had to throw out the window. So I mean, there was a typical preparation of like, really understanding how that must feel, and I used music in my preparation, and I, created memories of the two of them so that every word in the script is meaningful. Everything I'm saying has a meaning. Everything I'm being told has meaning. And really focusing on the heart of the matter, which is that this is my mother. I love her deeply. There's deep wounds and trauma between us, and I'm saying goodbye. Like, that is a lot to work with. However, at that time that we filmed those scenes, I had lost my parent. And conversely, as to what one would think, that like, oh, use it in your art. You can't use something like that until you've healed from it, because otherwise you have no emotional command at all. And also things like that change over time. The way grief had hit me when I lost my parents was I was numb. When I tell you I was numb, okay? So anyway, we're filming, some of the smaller scenes before that, and then it comes up to this moment, which is the biggest scene of the whole movie, and I am numb. I'm totally numb. And I called my acting teacher, Ranjiv Pereira. This was the night before, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm numb. I feel nothing at that point. I felt no joy, no sorrow, no nothing. I just was trying to get by. And he was like, relax, trust the work that you know how to do. allow what you're feeling right now, even if it's nothing, and trust yourself. Let go. So anyway, the next day it comes to the scene, and I remember we have to drive to the set, and they kept myself and Ariel, my mother at the time, my mother, I'm still doing this,
Mm.
separate. So it would be really a reveal, a true surprise. And we got to the set, and I'm like, oh, I'm still numb. We're minutes away from filming. And I took a couple steps back and just closed my eyes and went into myself and started breathing, centering, trusting that I still know how to do all of these things. And then I asked like this younger version of myself, because, right, this is essentially in the script. What's happening is like Firefly, the adult Firefly, hadn't seen her mother in like over a decade, and it like more than maybe even 2 decades, something close to that. And so the last time she got to see her mom was as a kid. So I was like, okay, let me go and like summon up this younger version of myself. And I remember meditating and diving deeper, and I hit this wall where that grief was. And I remember asking this wall, I need you to let me in. It's gonna hurt. I promise you we will be okay. And it's like I heard this response saying, are you sure it's really raw in here? I said, yes, I'm sure. And at that moment, it was this wash over of this whole different existence. And my consciousness now, as Ashton, as the actor, stepped aside, and Firefly, this person that I had built and created on top of this like personal relations with my mom, with my parent, with everything, my truest self was just there. And I let her drive the scene, and it was pure magic. It was pure magic, and it was a life changing, especially not just as me as a person, but as an actor. That experience was life changing, and I understood in a deeper way than ever before what acting is about living truthfully, moment to moment to moment, releasing expectation and relying totally on the preparation, trusting yourself and trusting those around you, and just living. And it was magic.
Oh, it was. Out of the whole film, that is the scene to watch.
Yeah, it's a heavy hitter.
Yeah, because
In
in the
fact,
scene, because I know that that Ariel, okay, I know that the location is a jail,
yeah,
but for her character, was it really a jail or was it an asylum?
that's up for interpretation. My opinion is that it was an asylum.
Yeah, because the interaction between you and her, and it's her responses, because she's trying to figure out what is real
Exactly.
and what is not real. And in a
Yeah.
way, Firefly was too, with the conversations with
Yes.
Anthony Michael Hall.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
You know, so when people see this film, you have to pay attention because the way the flashbacks are staged
Mhm.
in this film. Now, for you, for Ariel and Kylie, how long did you have to sit for the special effects makeup?
Oh my goodness. Hours and hours. I think it took, I wanna say it took, like, 3 hours to get the prosthetics put on, and taking them off was a process too. So it was probably, like, 4 hours a day of prosthetic makeup, and it looked incredible. They did an amazing job. Uh, and I remember it was my first time having to sit in the chair that long, and I you get used really quickly that it's less chatty time after a while because you're there forever, and it's more listen to my music, chill, start to meditate. But yeah, it was a long time.
Well, can you, if you're sitting in the chair, do you mentally sit there and run through your lines just in your head?
I don't, but that's just because it stresses me out to like that close to, have to review anything. I'm like, no, that's my preparation work. But I'll start off in the makeup chair. I'm like very chatty, very happy, whatever. Myself, Ashton, this like bubbly, person that I am. And then as it gets closer to time to film, I put headphones on because the makeup room and the wardrooms are usually pretty loud and chatty, and that's great. I love the energy. I will put my headphones in and I play, white noise, right? So white noise is like the high, but I play brown noise, which is an octave lower. And I just tune out everybody. And then I start going through like my preparation practice, which is like breathing, centering, getting to that deep, grounded, trustful, like free space. And then I start bringing in all of the stuff that I worked on, like building the memories and priming my imagination and start warming up my emotions. And so for the makeup artist, it probably looks really weird because I go from being like like very bubbly to like, tearing up in the chair in like a minute. And we're like, what is happening? Actors, man, we're so weird.
Yeah, I got to tell you something that's really funny because when I was talking to Ariel,
Mm-hmm.
I told her as I was interviewing her that she looks younger now than she did in the film.
Oh
And
yeah.
I went back to rewatch Roswell Delirium. And
Uh-huh.
then when I got to the scene where it's both of you and it's the in the jail location, I
Mm-hmm.
paused it because I'm like, wait a minute. Because when I looked at her headshots,
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to make sure I've got the right people here. So
You're like,
I'm looking at my calendar going, okay, there's Ariel and there's Ashton. And I had to make sure that when I was watching, because now both
yeah.
of you would almost be considered as sisters.
Yeah. Yes.
And she
Yes.
said that now when she looks at Roswell, she goes, that's me.
Yeah.
Because
I
she
yeah.
knew she doesn't look like that right now.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, they made her look so old and weathered. It was
Oh,
great.
yeah. And it
So
got
the way
worse. You
it
know when she
got
was,
worse.
yeah,
I mean,
remember when she was sitting in front of Sam Jones in that
yes,
bunker? And then
yes,
it goes to then towards the climactic scene with you and her in the
yes,
jail. I mean,
yes.
of course, okay, if you take the beginning of the film
Yeah.
where she's happy and healthy, she's doing the
Gorgeous,
80s
effervescent, beautiful.
jazzercise,
Yes.
yeah. And then as you and a lot of people may not actually notice, but if you start noticing, she is slowly aging in that film.
Yes, and she's slowly like her skin starts to peel and yeah, they did a fantastic job. But also remember that last scene between her and I was a surprise. So when you see my reaction in the film when they turned the lights on, that's my genuine reaction to seeing her as she was, in real time. That was my reaction. It was that shocking. It was that shocking. And then to immediately have the emotions come in and realize, oh, that's my mom. That's my mom, and it's been so long since I've seen her. And yeah, the makeup and the prosthetics in this film actually, I know for some people they don't do much as far as like acting. For me, it was really powerful. It was really powerful to like wear the prosthetics and look in the mirror, and all the work that you do in the preparation then sinks in a different way when you get to see it on your face. When you get to see it on this person that is your mother. You know what I mean? It brought it to life in a way where I totally see how much of an art form makeup and prosthetics are. It's truly
Well,
an art.
she had her whole left arm done.
Yeah.
And it was because in that scene, uh, because I asked her, I think her makeup was 5 hours because they had to do her arm too.
Yeah.
But boy, I mean, the deep special effects was done on Kylie.
Yes. Yes.
in those scenes. So yeah, it all came together. I
Yeah.
love the film. There's so much to see and to watch and absorb in it. But tell me about this series that you're on called Elkhorn. It's on the Inspiration Channel. How,
Yes.
what's it like being a regular in a series?
It is the greatest feeling, especially because everyone that I work with, not just the other actors, but all of the crew and all of the production team are really fantastic. And we get along so well. And especially because we just finished filming the second season in May. And so the first season was incredible. The second season is like next level. I'm so excited for everyone to see that. But as an actor, there's such a steady cadence to it that it's great. It's great having like a predictable schedule, but it's also great in terms of the craft because I mean, you do your preparation work for anything, right? But when you're living in a role for that long, like we started filming it season 2 in November and we finished in May. And we had a couple, week or two breaks here and there, but essentially I'm getting to play this role all the time, and the longer you're in it, the more free you become and the bolder choices that you make, and it just starts evolving exponentially. Oh, it's so fun. And I get to play Medora, who is the lead villainess, and oh, she's so juicy. She's so sassy and she's manipulative, but also women in the 1800s, even though she came from wealth, she came from stature, everything like that. They couldn't lead. They weren't even able to vote at that time. So she had to lead through influence. And do the ends justify the means? Maybe. Maybe
Wow.
not.
Now, with a series with a series like that, and it's a
Mhm.
period piece on top of
Yes.
that, which I
Yes.
love. Everybody knows that I love period pieces. Uh, with a series, how
Yeah.
long do you have to wait or know until they renew for another season?
So that definitely varies. There's cases where like sometimes networks will order multiple cycles or multiple seasons. Usually how it goes is after like the first season comes out, they will wait to see ratings. And so in our case, an episode came out weekly for the first season. There were 10 episodes. So there was at least going to be a 10-week waiting period. But the network at that time did another run of it, I think, for extra data points. And so let's see, it came out in April. The first season came out in April of last year. And I think we found out in September. So May, June, July, August. Yeah. So 5 months later. So at that point, I remember, every time you film something, you let it go in general, whether it's a film, a short film, a TV series, or something. You just can't count on anything for certain, And as an actor, you cannot build your self-worth or your value as an actor based on the things that come out. It just doesn't work like that. Anyway, and so enough time had passed anyway where I was like, oh, well, I'm super grateful that we had a season 1, da, da, da. And then when they announced season 2, we were like, let's go. And it's so great. Season 1 was great. Um, but when I read all the scripts for season 2, my jaw hit the floor. And I was like, wow, this is something that I am excited not just to play in, but I'm excited to watch. Which, by the way, on the period piece, it takes place in the 1880s. It's about Teddy Roosevelt before he was president. And this is based on a true story. He came out to the Wild West, to this tiny town called Medora, who's named after moi, which is actually really close to the tiny town in Montana that I grew up in. Not joking. It's really close.
Is it filmed in Montana?
No, it's not. They built a ranch north of LA. They did it. Yeah,
Well,
our team.
at least LA's getting the business.
Amen. Amen to that. But anyway, it's an incredible series, and it comes out. Season 2 comes out in October. It's on INSP. Season 1's available on Amazon Prime now. Yeah, on Amazon Prime. Uh, yeah, it's
Well,
a
I
dream
was
come.
going to ask because It's a little bit rare today to have a television series debut on traditional television, but
Yeah.
it's good to see that they're also putting the previous season on streaming to get
Yes.
people hooked on it. And of course, we know now with certain series, like it's kind of like when we watch The Rookie on ABC. You know,
Hmm.
we won't watch it on ABC. We wait till it airs, and then usually the next day you can just watch it on streaming. So
Yes.
is it the same way with Elkhorn?
That's that's how they did season one. If I remember correctly, it would the episodes would debut on television, and I think it was either the next day or the next week the episode would then be available for streaming. Which apparently, like you're saying, is commonplace. I'm not exactly sure if they'll do the same thing with season two or not, or if they're going to be focused on driving more viewership towards the channel. I'm not sure, but I am very excited.
Well, either way, I'm glad that there's a season two, and hopefully there'll be a season three. And
Mm.
but I also noticed that you have a couple of films in post production and one in pre production. What are you allowed to talk about?
So there's a film called The Darkness Returns, which is a horror comedy, a little more horror than comedy, but some good comedic relief in there. That is in its final stages of post production. That had a private viewing at Cannes Film Festival for these like distributors and private buyers, and it wound up creating this huge buzz. And then so pretty soon, yeah, this huge buzz at Cannes Film Festival, which was like amazing news. It was like written in USA Wire and things like that. But that film is on its very tail end of production. Actually, this morning I got to see the trailer. It's so great. And so the plan with that is for that to come in film festivals and then distribution as per usual. The other project that I can talk about now is a project that has to do with quantum physics and quantum entanglements. It's a love story, and that's called Quantum Entangled. And that one, we're in the throes of filming now. And that one, we have like Hans Zimmer's studio like producers working on it, on like their junior producer, like creating all the music. And we have amazing actors involved that you recognize. And yeah, and it's such a beautiful, heart-wrenching, profound love story that makes you question how the universe really works. Yeah, very excited about that.
Wow, that is fantastic. I can't wait to see the one that was at Cannes because I'm really interested to see the finished product of that one.
Me too. Yeah, me too. It's good. And William Butler is the main man behind the scenes there. And I mean, he's like he his whole career is in horror. He was like an 80s horror star, and he's just so sharp and witty and funny and talented, and it was an honor to work with Billy Butler for sure.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have to check out Roswell Delirium, which is now on Apple TV and on Prime. And be sure to catch Ashton Solecki on the Inspiration Channel series Elkhorn as well. Season two, from what I understand, starts October the 2nd. So make sure you tune in there. And Ashton, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I had a great time with you.
Well, I appreciate that. And ladies and gentlemen, you can catch all of the Bond on Cinema interviews at bondoncinema.com. Check out our Prime show, our YouTube channel, and you can listen to us on your way to work or play on Spotify, iTunes, and Audible, and so many more. And remember, you're either going to see me at the movies or on the red carpet.